Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Dog days of summer and hot inflation. Will the Fed's magic 2% rate ever be achievable? Economist Jason Furman joins the debate.
Personally, I would push for a target of between 2 and 3.
And character actor and director Griffin Dunne telling tales of the business of Hollywood.
People are taking less chances on material. However, there's so much material. There's so many choices. So I think people are a little fatigued.
Plus, the rest of today's stories that got us squawking. Summer travel heats up, streaming services costing a pretty penny, and tech stocks take a beating. But are we still in a rally?
I don't understand the stock market right now. Conflicting signals, I don't understand.
It's Tuesday, June 25th. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box here on CNBC. We're live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Melissa Lee along with Joe Kernen. Becky is off today. Andrew is at the Aspen Ideas Festival. He will join us later on in the show. Why are you giving me the side eye?
I don't know.
First thing in the morning, the first
all
thing you start off with
all
the side
that
eye?
pleading worked. Here you are again. All that. Am I talking about you pleading? I'm talking about me pleading for you to be.
I think
all
that's
that
clear
begging.
which way the
I know.
pleading's going.
All that begging. Finally paying off.
I'm glad to be here and join you this morning. We are looking higher on the S&P as well as the NASDAQ. The Dow looking to be down by about 16 at the open. This all coming after a drop of 1% for the NASDAQ and a gain of 2/3% for the Dow. Tech stocks, most notably Nvidia, sinking. Nvidia was down 6.7%. That brings Nvidia's losses over the last 3 sessions to 13%. Among the other tech decliners yesterday, Dell, Supermicro, chip designer ARM, and Qualcomm. And take a look at Bitcoin continues to slide. Supposedly, billions worth of Bitcoin could come to the market because the creditors from Mt. Gox are going to pay back those who lost money. But we are seeing a rebound here, up 2.6%, 61,358.
Not too long ago, 60 seemed to be support, too. It's a couple months. And it looked like there was a 5 handle, briefly.
Yes.
Yesterday. But
Yeah.
not for long. Weird how it seems correlated, doesn't it? It's almost an Nvidia. Some people think a breakdown in Bitcoin could be the market's vulnerable. Tail, meat dog, right?
I think so.
But the stock, I still think the stock, I don't understand the stock market right now. Conflicting signals, no 2% losses. It just, maybe there's a lot of money on the sidelines. I don't understand.
What is propelling us higher?
I guess maybe I'm part of the bullish aspect as a last year I believed it a lot more when people didn't believe it. This year, I don't know. I think we had a lot of gains last year that might have.
We've had a lot of gains this year.
I know.
It's hard. I mean,
but
mid-year we've had so many gains, so it's harder and harder to be the bull.
But it was
the second half.
Last year. It was it's only a magnificent 7, and then supposedly breadth was improving, but it's a couple of stocks again. For the last, a third of the S&P's gain is Nvidia.
I mean, there are glimmers of hope if you can call a day or two glimmers of hope, but glimmers of hope that there was a broadening as Nvidia tumbled.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, we had some strength in energy. We had some strength in other sectors that had not been performing too well. We'll see with Nvidia's comeback, at least, pre-market. We're now up 3.2% pre-market. We'll see how the other sectors do. But, late in the day yesterday, we had participation by banks. If banks come in for the rally, we could be talking.
In AI, obviously, it's going to change all our lives. But the state of it right now, when I use it, I'm not impressed. So I know we got to build it out. We got to get all the chips. We got to get everything ready. And then we got to, set it all up. And someday it's going to be amazing. I hope, because there's a lot of promise. Now it's building up the hardware for the eventual promise of what it's going to do for everyone. I guess it will. It takes time.
I think what we see as a consumer is different from the applications that the corporate world.
Yeah, exactly. Have you played with it? It sucks.
A little bit.
It's like.
It's fine. It's like
Google.
Right. It is basically.
That's all it is.
That's how we're using it.
And it just collates a bunch of different places where it searches and gives you garbage in, garbage out.
In the insurance or financial services industry where there's so much paperwork, can you imagine streamlining that process and replacing it with some sort of algorithm, AI, to sort through all that paperwork?
When does it use logic or insight or intuition or any of those things?
Now you're talking about singularity. I mean, you can't.
Then how
do you have intuition built into a computer model?
I don't know. Then how does it differ from just putting a bunch of search stuff together? if it can't take that to the next step, to where it's actually using that information to come up with some type of human-type conclusion, instead of just, all right, this is what I found, I looked everywhere on the internet, blah, blah. I'm able to put it into sentences, that subject, verb, object, but I'm not giving you any value added.
I think we'll get closer.
Trillions of dollars are in the market now based on what this is supposed to do, and I look at it and okay, if I was in college, I could cheat on a paper. That's all it does. Or I need to write a thank you note, which you
if
can
I
do. Ever do that,
or a resignation letter, or
right. A what? Where would you go?
Remember Andrew typed in some letter like, saying ChatGPT, I'm Joe Kernen. Send a letter to my boss asking for a raise.
Oh yeah, that's right. It came up with.
It was amazing.
It did have a.
Except it was too respectful. It was
did
obvious
have good
that it
qualities.
was not you.
It found some good qualities. I don't know how that. I forgot about that. Maybe it is okay. Following yesterday's charge against Apple, the European Union is accusing Microsoft now of breaching its antitrust rules by packaging its Teams chat app with other business software. The regulator said Microsoft's unbundling of Teams from some of its other products is, in its words, insufficient to address its competition concerns, and more changes are needed. In a statement, Microsoft President Brad Smith said, in part, we appreciate the additional clarity provided today and will work to find solutions to address the Commission's remaining concerns. You got to hand it to the EU, right? I mean, they basically, in the socialism land over there in Europe, there's no innovation. They don't have any new tech companies. They're really not very good at entrepreneurship. They see what we're doing over here, killing them. Why not get 10% of the revenue of all these great American companies instead of really doing anything yourself? Would that not be a great answer? $38 billion from Apple? Why start a company? Why have innovation? And is there any Silicon Valley anywhere in France?
Not that I know.
There's their own. There's good. Maybe that's German. There's wine, stuff like that.
Right.
Rich, creamy sauces. If that was, if you could have a high multiple put on rich, creamy sauces or good wine.
I'm so glad you're going to Paris later this month or next month.
I don't think they're going to keep me there, are they?
We'll see.
They don't want me. Airbus, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, really? Is this really? Are these companies so egregious? Are they just good at what they do, much better than any of the companies, or are these things egregious antitrust problems?
Well, according to the EU, there are problems.
Years, the EU has been. We don't want their brand of capitalism here, and I don't think it should be forced on our companies.
I don't think that it's being forced. It's the companies operate there, so they have to follow by the rules of the local country.
So then don't operate there then.
Well, you tell that to Microsoft and see what it does to the stock.
Well, we'll see what it does when none of them have, spreadsheets. France. Of course, there'd have to be other business that they were doing. I better stop. Everything strikes me this morning. I need a streaming bundle. So, I didn't. You don't want your cable bundle because that works all the time. You got to replace that with the streaming bundle so you can get something that goes like this all the time because of your Wi-Fi. So you're replacing one bundle for a crappier bundle. Paramount Global is hiking the price of its flagship streaming service, but the version that includes Showtime will rise by $1, $12.99 a month. Do the math if you have all of them. The basic version, though, will rise by $2 to $7.99 for all new subscribers. Existing subscribers to the basic package won't pay more. Other streaming services, including one that's actually worth it, NBC's Universal's Peacock and Warner Brothers Discovery's Max have also recently announced price hikes. You need a bundle. Do you not need a bundle?
You need a bundle of bundles.
How many do you need? You need like 6 or 7, don't you? And then they'll have a football game on a Thursday, and then you got to get,
I've got like 4 bundles, 4 streaming services.
Right. So you replace a cable bundle with a.
But I still have cable.
Yeah, and
I'm a sucker.
So am I, but I still like my cable.
I like my news.
I don't really have a landline.
How am I going to watch you in the morning?
Right.
On the big screen.
Yeah, that's scary. High def. Not my friend. Separately, Goldman Sachs initiating coverage of several media stocks, including buy ratings for Disney and Comcast, a neutral rating for Warner Brothers Discovery. That's kind of shocking since it's a $7 stock. But even a sell rating for Paramount Global. A lot of times we've already talked about things that suddenly we talk about, but we were just, in fact, talking about this.
Because you wanted to talk about it, we're supposed to just tease this story and then talk about it now.
No, yeah, but I was thinking about it before when I saw it, because was it in the tax? I don't know. The TSA, you know who I'm talking about, those friendly types. The TSA said it screened 2.99 million people on Sunday, breaking the single-day record. Now, with the July 4th holiday approaching fast, the TSA says it expects to screen more than 32 million people between this Thursday and July 8th, and that's a 5.4% increase over the same period last year. TSA anticipates the peak travel day will be Friday, July 28th, and I'm laughing because I'm really not mad at the TSA people, because
you just want to dial it back because you're worried that somebody's watching you.
No.
And then we'll give you a hard time and check every single bag you have.
Imagine dealing with 38 million people. The kind of people
you would hate that so much.
The kind of people
you'd be so bad at that
the kind of people that still leave crap in their pockets,
right.
That still don't take their belts off,
right.
That still don't take the laptops out of it, that still bring water along, they all still do the things that and the TSA at that point, they're just like, you people are it's a bad combination. It's people that are working long hours.
Right, people who are not used to traveling.
And it's people who are dealing with the public.
Yes.
Bad combination. Hideous. So I have compassion for people on both.
I'm glad you changed your stance.
Okay. You're right. Maybe someone
is watching. They're going to search every pocket and
or pat me down, which nobody.
I think you might like that.
Cheese will be next.
Time for you to tell us what's coming up. It's almost perfect how you do this, and you come in and it's just seamless. Right?
Except that now we're late because you're talking about how
No, not really.
How it works.
No, there's about 2 minutes worth of copy to read. We would have been done 8 minutes early, and now we're hitting our...
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It is always perfect.
Thank you.
Coming up, aiming for inflation relief, is the Fed being stubborn, sticking to its 2% target rate? Harvard professor and former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Jason Furman, on the strength of our economy.
I was just in Europe, and boy, are they jealous of the United States. The whole world is just so jealous of our companies, our stock market, our economic growth.
This is Squawk Pod. Here today are Joe Kernen and Melissa Lee.
Good morning and welcome back to Squawk Box, live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square.
Can the Fed hit its 2% inflation target, and when? Senior economics reporter Steve Liesman joined us now with an exclusive analysis that shows the answer is somewhere between the end of the year and maybe never. Steve.
Yeah, Melissa, math is hard, and inflation math for the Fed trying to hit a 2% target is proving to be harder still. An analysis of possible inflation paths over the next year shows the economy has to be lousy or perfect for the Fed to hit the target. With even a slight permanent rise of monthly inflation from its pre-pandemic level, the Fed may never hit the target, and that creates a series of hard choices for the central bank. Let's do a little history first. Average monthly core PCE inflation before the pandemic running about 0.13 to 0.14, 1.5 to 2% annually. The pandemic and the aftermath saw monthly inflation more than double to 0.34. The low in this period during the great financial crisis, 0.09, the high pandemic, 0.43. So we modeled recession-like core PCE inflation and found it would drop inflation to around the 2% target at the end of this year. At the pre-pandemic average of 0.15 we modeled, it would take until the spring of 2025. But just a slight rise, 0.2 a month over month, the Fed never gets there. Annual inflation settles at 2.4%. And of course, there are those who say we are just not going back to the pre-pandemic world because of deglobalization, tariff wars, government spending, and high labor costs that might continue. So Fed choices in that world include you keep rates high, even hiking, possibly causing a recession to get there, only modest cuts but remaining well above neutral, and maybe eating crow and accepting a higher inflation target, or even saying what they need is a range. So the Fed keeps insisting it's going to get inflation back to 2% and believes it can do it without a recession. But it may need to choose one or the other unless the U.S. economy finds its pre-pandemic inflation mojo, Melissa.
Which it seems like, how could that possibly be the case? I mean, would it really be perceived, Steve, that the Fed would be, what was the term you used, eating crow, if it went back on 2%?
Even crow prices are up. I mean, for people that in this economy,
and they will continue to go higher because the crow manufacturing has been nearshore.
Exactly.
So in the future, crows will be manufactured
Tastes
and
like
processed
chicken,
here in the
right,
United States,
Joe?
as opposed to China or Vietnam.
You need like 12 of them, but yeah, they do taste like.
But it tastes like chicken.
Scrawny little.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Just to recap, 0.1 kind of recessionary levels, you can get there. 0.15 pre-pandemic level, you can get there. But 0.2, you can't get there. But that's not really a big inflation problem. So, Melissa, you're asking me about the eating crow thing. I think it's so difficult. You take a $22 trillion economy and try to, really split that very small hole in there of exactly prices rising 0.15. If you go to a range, you can say, you know what? We're at or near where we need to be,
right,
and you don't have to really worry too much about it.
I just wonder why they don't just let go of 2%, say confidence that inflation is moving lower. But they've searched for flexibility in every single communication they've had. So why not this one too? But
right, just real quick. Friday we get the PCE number. The core is supposed to be 0.1, so that's good news. Right. But all of this story, Melissa, came from from my question to the chair, when I asked him, why are you at 2.8 end of the year? And he said base effects. So that's when I started to model all this. And the Fed I don't think it can see the 0.1s and the 0.15s. The Fed is looking at, I think, 0.2s over the next, not hitting its target. In fact, inflation going up, the core PCE number going up by the end of the year.
All right. Steve, thanks. Steve Liesman.
Jason Furman is here. You're not in your pod. You're not in one of those storage units, one of those that you didn't want to hear. You didn't
flew all the way here, so we didn't need to talk about my backdrop. And what are we talking
your
about?
Backdrop. This
I wish
is the
we
best,
had a picture of it so we can do a split screen
so you
of this backdrop versus what it was.
Can we just talk about crows?
Do you know when we used to have you on, there certainly wasn't, we weren't distracted. When you were in the pod, because there was nothing behind you whatsoever. Jason wrote a piece recently that the Fed could take its time taming inflation. He's a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School, but the former big-time government guy, former chairman of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, President Obama, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jason, I kind of feel what you're saying here, because Steve just said we don't want to choose between one or the other. It's hard to get inflation or recession. So if we take our time a little, maybe we get it under control, but we don't go far enough to where we actually cause a recession or a big rise in unemployment. Is that what you're thinking?
I hope so. Look, we have a skewed set of risks on inflation right now. Look, no one knows what's going to happen. I thought Steve's analysis right now is terrific, but it's not like he had a crystal ball. But look, ask me, are we going to have inflation below 1.5%? That's extremely unlikely. Are we going to have inflation above 3%? That's a real possibility. That's roughly the rate it's been running at recently. And so you have a really skewed set of risks on inflation, and that's why the Fed just can't cut rates quite yet.
I've seen both sides argued about whether 3% is really bad or whether it's kind of okay. When you got this much debt, it helps a little because future dollars aren't worth quite as much that you're paying down the debt with. But over time, when you compound an additional percentage point, it really does hurt people and the purchasing power for things when they go to the grocery store. So I'm not sure. Is 3 okay?
Look,
permanently?
If we had higher price inflation, we'd also have higher wage inflation. So purchasing power would be about the same. You would just have the inconvenience of a yardstick.
Well, then why not do 7%?
Well, you'd have the inconvenience of a yardstick that was shifting all the time. Do you want to change your measuring stick every year and have every engineer have to go out and redo, what the lens needs to be?
You're not saying inflation's not bad. You're not saying that it's not.
No, it's not bad, but it's not just the straight purchasing power. It's the inconvenience. It's the arbitrary and capricious redistribution between borrowers and lenders. It's all sorts of things. Personally, I would push for a target of between 2 and 3, but I'd like us not to just...
That'd be a goalpost move. And people say you can't do it.
They said they'd shift the goalposts every 5 years. They're doing a framework review. I think it's something they should consider. But if they're going to hit that target, I'd like them to hit it from below. I'd like them to be very, very comfortably in that range before they declare it. At a minimum, shift the target from 2.0 to 2.
Can I just quickly? We had Roger Altman. I'm sure you probably worked with him.
Oh yeah, he's a good friend.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We had a discussion about, how much revenue historically we usually raise, and he was saying, I guess he was going back to his golden years with Clinton when it really was 19%. But over time, since 1923, it's been 17.5%, which is where it is right now. That's what we raise. Normally, we spend about 18 or 19%. We're spending 24% right now, and it's not going to go down. That is a spending issue, is it not? It's not a taxing issue. It's a spending issue. How do we bring it down?
It's a both issue.
Yeah, but it's 24.
We have an older population.
Why is it both? It's 18%. We're bringing in what we've always brought in, but we're spending 24.
Unless you want to say because we have an older population, you're all going to get less. You're going to have to do some combination of more taxes. It's more expensive to deal with the world we have now. Government does services. Services rise in relative price, even if the government was super efficient.
So we're stuck at 20. We're stuck at 24%.
No. We can bring that spending down, but we can also bring that revenue up. And by the way, politically, that's the right recipe.
Well, how do we
in fact,
grow?
you have a lot of Republicans in Congress. A lot of your friends in Congress, Joe, are talking about even the corporate tax rate.
I think that's a
going
mistake.
up.
I think that's a mistake. I don't know.
Between us.
I mean, Mitch McConnell is or not Mitch. Romney is still a Republican, but he's not.
Oh, you have like Jason Smith, the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, the Republican chair of the Ways and Means
There are
Committee.
plenty want to go down. Plenty that want to go down.
We're going to have to make tough choices on both sides of the ledger.
Does that? I mean, with corporate taxes at 6 or 7% of revenue, that's really where you want to go to. You got to. If you're Willie Sutton, you got to go somewhere else.
I wouldn't mind going there, but there's a lot of things I would do. I'd reform the tax code more comprehensively. I'd give businesses more incentive on the depreciation expensing side in exchange for that higher rate. There's all sorts of smart, creative things we can do, but ultimately we are going to need more revenue and less spending.
Don't you feel out of touch with the current administration? Because all the things you're saying are sort of Clinton-type things that you're moving way to the center from what you want to do. Unrealized gains, Jason?
I think they have a clever plan for that. I don't mind that at all, Joe.
Clever.
So
that sounds devious. A clever plan.
I think our relationship's going to founder on capital gains tax rates.
Might.
Maybe mine with a lot of your viewers. But we can still love free trade. You do, don't you? Or no?
You guys love tariffs as much as the other side at this point.
I'm not a side. I'm the side of free trade.
Oh, neither am I.
Okay.
And neither's Andrew. What else? Anything else you want to close on? Anything? Are we gonna get through this 33 trillion?
I mean, the economy. I was just in Europe, and boy, are they jealous of the United States.
I know they're suing all our companies for.
So jealous of our companies, our stock market, our economic growth. The strength of this country. There's something really quite good going on here, even if I worry about all the problems.
As we push back against you and your friends trying to take us to a Euro-style economy.
I want us to have an American-style economy, Joe.
All right. It's good to have you on in studio. See, it's better.
It's better. Yeah, I'll come here, whenever you ask.
Oh, seriously?
Well, probably not.
You didn't. You didn't like the TSA either. Logan's no fun. Did you fly?
I love Logan. It's like the best airport.
Well,
small,
compared to Newark,
it's easy.
You got to go across you got to get over that little.
Much closer than LaGuardia.
Next on Squawk Pod, Andrew Ross Sorkin reporting from the Aspen Ideas Festival with a storyteller from a long line of storytellers. It's actor and director Griffin Dunne, his new memoir, and stories from his early years, like the explosion of his best friend and roommate into stardom, Carrie Fisher.
She was just a struggling actress. She was in the chorus of her mother's show on Broadway. Then she comes home and says, I got this part in this really stupid movie. It's shooting in England, and I don't even understand it. And I go, what's it called? And she goes, Star Wars.
The force is strong with this one, right after this. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC.
Stand Andrew by.
Here's Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm here in Aspen again at the Aspen Ideas Festival. NBC Universal is the news group media partner of the event. Our next guest is actor, producer, director Griffin Dunne. He recently published his first book. It is a family memoir. It is titled The Friday Afternoon Club. details his upbringing from New York City to Beverly Hills, his time on screen and behind the scenes, and his family's personal story growing up with larger-than-life characters. He is one. I called him a character actor before, so I wanted to actually even to start there. Do you like when people call you a character actor?
I gotta face it, I am a character actor. You know, in the life of a young actor who's not terribly bad looking. You know, you enter it as in your 20s, and you're getting the girl, and then next thing you know, you're the girl's father, and then you're the grandfather. You know, I used to play the lawyer, now I play the judge. So it's life.
So tell us about this book, The Friday Afternoon Club. How long did it take to write? What were you trying to do? You come from a colorful family.
I do.
People who have done this before. So how intimidating was that?
Well, you know, I'm from a long line of storytellers, and my aunt and uncle are John Gregory Dunn and Joan Didion, and my father was Dominic Dunn, who was a great crime reporter for Vanity Fair. And but the history of my family always interests me. I grew up on these stories about my outrageous grandparents and great-grandparents who did just scandalous, kind of crazy things in their lives. And but in the distance of time, since most of my immediate family had passed away, I started to recognize how extraordinary they were. You know, how we've been through a great deal of death and mental illness and alcoholism. But the book is actually very, very funny. It's funny, sad, you know. And one side of my family is Mexican, and the other side is Irish. To bring the two of them together,
you have stories about your relationship with Carrie Fisher and all sorts of people from the very beginning. I mean, did you appreciate when you were growing up? Do you think you appreciated the family and the life you were living?
Not in the least. I grew up in Beverly Hills. My parents were so social. They gave these extraordinary parties and went to parties that had, Alfred Hitchcock and Jimmy Stewart and Billy Wilder and all of these filmmakers and movie stars that I would appreciate much later on when they were practically dead. And I'd go, I never got to speak to Billy Wilder about Some Like It Hot. So it was just normal to me. But Carrie Fisher, was my best friend. I met her when she was 15 and I was 16, and we moved to New York together. We were roommates. And she was just a struggling actress. She was in the chorus of her mother's show on Broadway. And then she comes home and says, I got this part in this really stupid movie. It's shooting in England, and I don't even understand it. And I go, what's it called? And she goes, Star Wars. And I go, what's that? You need 2 words? What is that? And then she called from London and go, oh my God, I have 2 bagels on the side of my head, and we have ray guns without triggers, and a monkey chases us around. And then I had, I grew up around famous people, which, as that was just the diet of life. But I'd never seen a best friend overnight explode while I was still a popcorn concessionaire at Radio City Music Hall and a waiter counting my tips. And all of a sudden, she's just this huge movie star.
So what was that like for you?
It was tough on the ego. We lived in a doorman building, and Jimmy the doorman is, hey Jimmy, hey Griff, hey this, and overnight he'd go, hello, Mr. Fisher. And I went, what are you, Jimmy? It's Griffin. Everyone, flowers are arriving from rock stars, and I'm still counting my tips, and I've got James Taylor and Glenn Fry in my living room. Right. I had to get out. It wasn't my time to hang around. But 5
decades later, you have been in how many films total?
Oh gosh, I have to look. But in somewhere 60-something.
Is there one to you that is like the one that you hold on to?
Well, I mean, the one that really, where all my dreams came true, was a movie I produced and that was directed by Martin Scorsese called After Hours. Right. Everything I'd been working on and toured came together for that movie, for sure.
Hollywood is changing in a very, very big way. Yeah. Are you happy about how it's changing? Are you worried about how it's changing?
I don't think
you just did a big show on Max.
Yep. Yes, I did, and it's that was it. 1 season, and it was a show called Girls on the Bus, and I played someone a peer of yours, inspired David Carr. and it was a very intelligent show, but I think it didn't really have, time to breathe. And I think that's sort of a general feeling of in the industry. There's a sort of uncertainty. People are taking less chances on material. However, there's so much material. There's so many choices. So I think people are a little fatigued, when I know I am when I go, I have a night to myself. All I'm going to do is just watch television, and I save all these things, and I get to it, and I don't look at them.
How much do you do now on social media, TikTok and the like? Didn't you just announce a big project there?
Instagram.
I
do Instagram. I've got a book coming out. I'm plugging away the book, and I mean, that self-promotion is part of our daily life.
Do you think that you could how much easier or harder do you think it is to break through today? Easier or harder because you have all the social media pieces, but the fragmentation of it all?
It's still word of mouth. That's the strongest tool you could possibly have, and that's where social media comes in as a form of word of mouth. But there is, advertising as we knew it. People aren't taking out, what used to be when you had a movie coming out and you could value how much the studio liked your movie if they took out what's called a double truck ad in the paper.
Yeah, I remember.
No such thing. How it's almost up to the filmmaker or the actor or the creator to promote their own movie and get it out. In my case, in this book, there's an agent in New York. She's 91 years old. She's still completely active. Named Bodie Boatwright. Bodie Boatwright knows everyone on Earth, and darling, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. She got this thing. The most famous people on Earth had read my book before it came out, and then they talked about it. And it's on the bestseller list.
Well, here we are talking about it. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
All right, we got to go. Andrew, see you. You're a lucky guy in Aspen. He's working hard, though. He's working hard. You going to be here tomorrow?
Yes.
Awesome. Make sure. All right. Make sure you join us.
And that's the pod for today. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Thank you to Melissa Lee for sitting in today.
Why are you giving me the side eye?
She'll be back for more tomorrow.
All that pleading worked. Here you are again.
Squawk Box is on TV on CNBC at 6 Eastern, and this podcast gives you the very best of the show right in your ears in an easy-to-listen-to format. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. We'll meet you back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.